Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, right now, all eyes are on Congress. House Republicans are pushing for final passage of Donald Trump's signature big, ugly bill, frankly. We don't know if it will pass. We do know it is deeply unpopular, and it is laying bare one of the biggest, starkest contradictions in MAGA and Republican politics, sort of the defining tension at the heart of this whole era, a contradiction that's been there since the beginning. You might not remember this, but back in Donald Trump's first months as president, remember the first thing they did was to push an Obamacare repeal bill that slashed Medicaid. It included tax cuts for investors. And it didn't exactly jive with his campaign shtick of standing up for the little guy.
A Bloomberg analysis showed that counties that voted for you, middle-class and working-class counties, would do far less well under this bill than the counties that voted for Hillary, the more affluent counties.
I know.
It seems like maybe this isn't consistent with the message of the last election.
No, a lot of things aren't consistent, but these are going to be negotiated. We will take care of our people, or I'm not signing it.
He's going to take care of his people. You could take that to the bank. Well, he never got a chance to sign it because, famously, it died in the Senate. But he was pushing hard for it, just like he pushed successfully for this tax cuts for billionaires and corporations that he did sign into the law last time he was president. Donald Trump, I don't think I have to tell you, doesn't seem to really care about his people. Instead, he took care of the ultra-rich at the expense of his voters. And that dynamic, whew, boy, is it alive tonight. Because this Trump reconciliation bill is loaded with perks for billionaires and businesses, all kinds of backdoor sweetheart corporate pork deals. It rolls back U.S. energy policies in the most insane way you can imagine by decades. It funds a police state led by ICE. It slashes health care and food subsidies for mostly poor and older Americans, boots millions off their health insurance, while still, to be clear, adding an estimated $3 trillion to the deficit, which may be kind of a problem in the bond markets anytime soon. And right now, that bill, which the Senate passed yesterday by one tie-breaking vote from J.D. Vance, is up in the air in the House. Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes, and there are holdouts. Now, Trump met with several groups of them today in the White House, including conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus, who say they're worried about the bill's spending and the fact it adds $3 trillion to the deficit, and I think so-called or self-identified moderates who are worried that their voters in swing districts will punish them for a crappy bill that cuts so many vital programs and services. But one of the weird things here is that Trump's most reliable votes, right, the ones that he already has tallied up that he can count on for the bill, will come from the hardcore MAGA heads in Congress, many of whom represent places that are going to get absolutely hammered the most by the bill's provisions. Alarms are already being sounded in states like Oklahoma and West Virginia and Kentucky, where cuts to Medicaid funding in the bill could crush rural hospitals and the patients who rely on them. The bill is going to be especially ruinous to the rural white Trump base. But their elected Republican lawmakers don't seem to mind or care or know. I don't know. They're just voting in lockstep with Trump to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Even if, as Notice reported today, Trump still doesn't seem to have a firm grasp about what his signature legislative achievement does. Get this, listen to this one. According to 3 sources with direct knowledge of the comments, the president told Republicans at this meeting he had with the holdouts that there are 3 things Congress shouldn't touch if they want to win elections: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. And as we just pointed out, this bill cuts Medicaid massively. Even some of MAGA's highest-profile Republicans, like J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, have made so much noise about being the party of the working class and the working man. They've, of course, chosen to back this bill.
For you on the medical emergency front in just a couple seconds is gonna shock you. But I want to make it clear to set the stage. Trump is screwing his own voters. Now, what you're going to hear next from one of the top Democrats in Congress and from independent reporting is that Donald Trump is so demented, so cognitively declined, that he did not apparently know what was in his own big, beautiful bill. And apparently some of the harshest, most insane cuts he didn't know about. Watch this. It's going to blow your friggin' minds, and I'm going to take my turn tearing into that SOB.
Mr. Speaker, I found the preamble to this big, ugly bill. We, the billionaires, and our king, in order to deform and sicken our union, establish injustice, ensure domestic servility, weaken our people's defenses, undermine the general welfare, and reserve to ourselves and our posterity staggering debt servitude for eternity, do hereby instruct the Republicans in Congress to strip 17 million people of their health care, increase co-pays, deductibles, and premiums for everyone else.
Congressman Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland, delivered what he said should be the preamble to that bill, currently working its way through Congress. He's a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, and he joins me now. Congressman, let me just first start by your understanding of where things do stand with this bill.
It's up in the air. We've been sent home for the night. There are at least three groups of Republicans who are acting very recalcitrant and evasive. One are those who are saying that this is an absolute debt exploder, and they spend all their time talking about reducing deficits and debt, and this will add $3.5 or $4 trillion to the debt. A second group is those who are really afraid, if not for moral reasons, then at least political reasons, of what it means to throw 17 million people off of Medicaid and 42 million people off of nutrition assistance. So they might be afraid for their election, or they might be having some pang of conscience about it. And the third are those who learned from the Senate that they should hold out and try to shake Trump down for whatever it is they can extract for themselves or their particular political groupings or their district. So that's what's creating this long holdup. The shocking thing is they allocated only 1 hour of debate, 30 minutes on each side, to this entire bill, which will be absolutely life-changing for basically everybody in America. 1 hour of debate, and then they've kept us waiting around for 6, 7, 8 hours. We could have been debating the bill and talking about its provisions, but they would prefer to just have everybody, wandering around in the dark and eating bad pizza all night.
There was this exchange that happened today reported by the outlet Notice, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it because it, to me, kind of epitomizes everything about where we are. According to three sources with direct knowledge of the comments, this is Trump meeting with the holdouts. The president told Republicans at this meeting, there are three things Congress shouldn't touch if they want to win elections: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. But we're touching Medicaid in this bill, one member responded to Trump, according to the three sources. We don't know what Trump said back. What do you make of that?
Well, there's a lot of discussion on the floor about whether or not Trump really understands what's in this bill or not, and whether he's out of it. And the extraordinary thing about that is that, of course, all of these people have gotten in line despite their own misgivings because Trump is leading the way, but Trump might not even understand what's in the bill. So it's a very dangerous moment when you think about what democracy is, and it doesn't speak well for what has become of the Republican Party. Now, some people think that, it's just Trump's devilishly clever politics where he's already distancing himself from a bill that he knows will be a nightmare, and then he'll blame it on somebody else for not having told him what was really in there. We don't know. But the point is that we should, as a society, be able to step back from this and say, look, if it's a great bill, let's take 2 weeks and explain to everybody how great it is. And if it's a terrible bill, let's get rid of it and let's start all over again.
Yeah, and I think, my read on this is that he doesn't really care that much one way or the other, and certainly doesn't care enough to spend the time to understand, the distributional consequences of the Medicaid provisions. There's no way that if you sat him down, he could talk you through what's happening here. But the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is, part of what's so weird to me is we had, the first few months of his administration and Elon Musk with his chainsaw at Doge, and Russ Vought at OMB, who basically have staked themselves on the constitutional principle that spending decisions for Congress are simple advice. They're sort of suggestions. And then the executive can do with them what they want. And it's very weird to be legislating under those circumstances to me. All this ICE money, right? Presumably some future Democratic administration could be like, no, we're not spending it. It doesn't seem to have ultimately sunk into Congress that they have allowed so much power to accrete to Trump and the executive.
Well, the Democrats understand it because, of course, what he's doing is sabotaging all of the legislation that we've either gotten passed with President Biden or that we've fought for some kind of compromise with the Republicans. And he thinks he's got the power just to impound it, thwart it, redirect it. And it's an absolute violation of Congress's powers under the spending clause under Article 1 of the Constitution. And it is scandalous that the Republicans won't stand up for that at all. They act like our power is purely advisory, like we're a recommendation panel for what should happen. And so we know that the district courts and the appeals courts have been standing with us on this question. And we hope that, Thomas and Alito are not able to pull the rest of the court over to this monarchical understanding of Article 2 of the Constitution, that somehow the president can do whatever he wants. I mean, the president's core job is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, not thwarted and rewritten and not impounded. An Appropriations Act, Chris, as you know, is a federal law, just like
doing in its essence, Chris, is we are trying to get more people to have health care, not less.
Yes, exactly.
It was controversial because it was change, and change is hard in a system like healthcare. But we weren't trying to claw healthcare away from people. What's really interesting about this is the Republican MAGA party has dressed up as if they were for the little guy, and the beating heart of this legislation is all about rich people. And they all know it. And the reason they're working so hard, even Trump said you should raise taxes on the rich, but oh no, the Republican Party is in charge now. They are so hyper-focused on giving tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans that they are forgetting about the people who have put them in office. It is really political malpractice, and I don't think it's going to end well for them. I really don't, especially if the bill passes.
That point you made on the ACA, and we'll see. I mean, I think everyone sort of at some level, if you had to bet, would expect the bill to pass, but also crazy things happened. I all remember the John McCain thumbs down back in 2017. But John, Claire mentioned ACA. I covered that and saw it up close. And one of the things that was really interesting to me about that was it was clear that, the only reason they did it in the end, the Democrats, was they really believed in the project. They knew they were going to get killed for it. People did it because they had a genuine and sincere ideological commitment. I can't even figure out what the genuine and sincere ideological commitment is at the heart of this enormous piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's zombie governing. You have someone like Warren Davidson who voted no on the House.
So either way, Trump looks awful here. If he actually does know what's happening and he's just trying to blame his own sundowning brain, he comes off as a duplicitous liar. But even if this is honest and Trump doesn't know all of the bad stuff in his bill, and in a sense that he's trying to use it to absolve himself of responsibility for killing his own voters, and not just his own voters, I want to make that clear, but some number of MAGA Republicans will lose their life as a result of these cuts. The reality is, then he clearly is unfit to be president. Because for all the attacks on Biden, again, as I've said, for all of the debates about whether he should have run again, by the end of his term, I am convinced of this. He had an understanding of what legislation he was passing. I really believe that. With Trump, either he's lying, he is demented, or both.